So slavery became illegal. Now it's going to be illegal to teach slavery in schools. It seems really odd.
I mean, where is he going to draw the line? Somewhere between abolition and now. I don't know where Ron DeSantis considers the history versus the now.
Joining me now, my friend Jeff Charles, contributor to Red State, Liberty Nation, author of a new book out called Chasing Liberty, coming out on February 25th. If I know Jeff, it should be good. Jeff, I understand that it's all about who you know and things like that, but how did these people get on television? I really genuinely want to know. Don Lemon has his own television show. Don Lemon is an idiot by any measure and a moron about everything, and yet he sits there every day for an hour on CNN. It amazes me.
Well, I've always said, Jesse, and I'm still debating this, but I think I'm in the wrong line of work. You can get paid big bucks if you're a black man going on a TV screen to call people racist. I mean, that's what it is. I mean, black men and women, they use these black faces to call everybody racist because it sounds better coming from a black person than from a white progressive.
All right, what is DeSantis doing? To be honest with you, Jeff, I don't know. I've seen the headlines. I've seen a couple video clips. What is he banning? Is he banning talks of slavery? What's he doing down there?
No, he's not. But that is the narrative that they're running with, just the same way they did with the parental rights and education bill. So here's what happened. The College Board, which is the organization that's responsible for administering the SAT test, they came out with this advanced placement, this AP African American Studies course for older high school students. And they've been rolling out this pilot to about 60 different schools across the country. So they tried to introduce this to Florida, and they rejected it. Not outright. They said, basically, we're not going to accept this as is because it doesn't have a lot of educational value. But if you retool it and resubmit it, then we'll take another look at it. And the issue wasn't so much the fact that it was teaching about Black history, African-American studies, but as they always do, they start inserting in this Marxist propaganda. They wanted to put queer theory into it, stuff that doesn't have much to do with the history of Black America. And it goes against the Stop Woke Act. So it's against Florida law to basically indoctrinate children in this stuff. It has a lot of stuff inspired by critical race theory. And the main issue here, Jesse, that I have with it, it's not the fact that it has material from Marxist thinkers, because Marxism has been in the Black community and throughout history. The problem is that it doesn't have opposing viewpoints. Like you don't see anything about like Booker T. Washington, Frederick Douglass, Walter E. Williams, people like that. So if this is supposed to inspire critical thinking, why not include both sides? No, it was very much one-sided in favor of Marxism. It talked about overthrowing capitalism and things like that.
I wish more people knew about Frederick Douglass. No one knows about Frederick Douglass. It's weird. All right, let me ask you something about the Marxism in the Black community, because this is a thing. It's a thing most people don't want to talk about for various reasons, but it is a thing that has been there for quite some time. Even the Soviets were getting involved in the civil rights movement and stuff like that. How did that come about? Why is that a thing? Where'd that come from, Jeff?
It really started after World War I ended. And you had a lot of people coming back, and in the Black community, especially during the Harlem Renaissance, that's where a lot of Marxist thought was taking hold in Black communities. Now, most Black people, even back then, and especially now, are not Marxists. Most Black people are not communist, but these influences were still coming into the community through people like W.E.B. Du Bois and others. But it really blew up during the during the Harlem Renaissance, and then you had the Red Summer, those riots, and that's when it started to flourish. And the Black community wasn't getting much of an alternative from the other party, the Republican Party. So there are a lot of Black people who jumped on to that, and that legacy even still remains today. I mean, you were just bringing up people like Don Lemon. That's where you get a lot of that far left-wing intelligentsia.
Man, are we really referring to Lemon as part of intelligentsia? Gosh, that's a sad state of affairs for this country, Jeff. All right.
We did have Eric Swalwell on the House Intelligence Committee.
We did. I still can't believe we had a guy who was sleeping with the Chinese spy on the House Intel Committee. You know what? Setting that aside for a moment. You have a piece out on Red State about school choice. We hear this a lot. School choice, school choice, school choice. where do we stand on it? Are we getting better?
I think I am cautiously optimistic. I mean, it is National School Choice Week right now, and Iowa finally passed a significant piece of school choice legislation. The governor there has been trying to get this going for years. He has tried twice, and it's always been voted down, but third time was a charm. So they went ahead and got that passed. Here in Texas, we're both in Texas, and we have our legislative session right now, and I can tell you, school choice is on the docket and it's going to be one of the main issues. And I think that Texas actually has a really good chance of getting this passed. I mean, school choice became even more hot over the past 3 years when people realized what their children were being taught in school. So I am optimistic. I mean, we had Arizona passing landmark legislation last year. I think more states are going to follow because it's got support from everybody. Even people who vote Democrat want school choice. It's really the far left progressives who want the government to decide where and how our children are educated, which should be a surprise to absolutely nobody.
All right, Jeff, I want to talk about your book because it's called Chasing Liberty. And obviously, liberty is something that is disappearing. And just to be frank, I see it disappearing, and as much as it saddens me, I see it as being inevitable. As the left has become more authoritarian, the right will inevitably become more authoritarian, and freedom is just one of those things that is being stomped out. That's how I see it. But it's your book. Tell me about it.
Yeah. So, I mean, and you and I have talked about this for a long time, and a lot of people are becoming disenchanted with the Republican Party because what's happening, Jesse, is people are waking up to the reality that, you know, when you elect a Republican, when they win, it doesn't necessarily mean that we win. There isn't enough of a difference between Republicans and Democrats, especially at the federal level, to really justify, you know, voting for them and thinking that that's a victory. So I went through a little bit of a political dark night of the soul after these past midterms. I found myself surprisingly voting for more libertarians than Republicans. And what I'm talking about here isn't necessarily party. It's about putting liberty over party. I think it's time for us, and I've heard you talk about this many times, it's time to start focusing local and state level. The federal government is gone, and the only way to nullify or to push back against what they're trying to do is to get the right people in office. So this year and next year and beyond, I'm going to be focusing on local candidates who are liberty focused. I don't care what letter they have next to their name. If their goal is to lessen the impact of the government, then I can rock with them. So in this book, I'm telling the story of how I came to this conclusion because it was years in the making. Previously, I mean, I'm a content creator. I write, I do commentary. And my goal was really to try to push the Republican Party to actually do what it says it does, get them to live up to their values. And I was using my voice to that effect, and there still are. We still need those. But after a while, I just got tired of it. I'm like, okay, I can't mess with this party anymore. It's not going to work. I hate to say that they're beyond reform, but they need more pressure. So for me, this book is about how I made that journey, but I'm also using that story to make the case for liberty and focusing on liberty, especially at the local level. It's not going to be a sprint. Like we're talking about getting people in positions at the local level over the next probably decades before it can start bubbling up to state and then maybe to federal. But you can do a lot of good by making sure that you're electing a liberty-focused people for sheriff, city council, mayor, and other local offices.
People forget about sheriff. Sheriff is the top law enforcement officer in your life, everybody. Remember that. Sheriff. All right, Jeff, libertarianism. Obviously, I have my love with it and my criticisms of it. I think it's the most wonderful form of government, but I also think it's not anti-communist. That has always been my problem with it, is it's defensive. And I like defensive, but defensive doesn't do you any good when the freaking commies have control of everything. How do we merge those two worlds? I want government to be teeny tiny, but it ain't teeny tiny. How do we stop the people who want to make it big and oppressive to you and me?
You know, I was talking about this yesterday. I think the key is to get control, get political power, get political control, and then unload the gun. The government is a gun. And a lot of people are saying, oh, we need to use the government against the commies, and then the commies will use it against us. My thing is, take the bullets out of the gun. You get power, and then you weaken the government as much as possible so that even if it is in somebody else's control, they cannot use it to enact tyranny on the rest of the populace. And you were right about the whole growing authoritarianism thing. And it's not just on the left, it's on the right. It's about seeing that this isn't really a battle of left versus right per se. It's about authoritarianism versus liberty. And that's how we have to look at it. So to answer your question, that's why I think the local focus is important right now. I mean, because you don't have a lot of liberty-minded people in Congress, whether they have an R or a D next to their name. There's very few. But it's easier to get those people elected locally so that they can practice nullification using the 10th Amendment. As that influence starts to grow, then you start taking over the states, and you can even focus on the states now. And then hopefully the federal government can be shrunk too. But it's not going to be an easy road. It's going to take a long time. We're not talking about a decade here. We might not even be alive to see it if it works. But I think that's the best shot that we have right now, because focusing on the federal government, it's already gone. And it doesn't matter who you elect. They're going to still.
Support the First TV today and get instant access to exclusive specials like Who is Ron DeSantis? The history of FBI scandals and America's worst presidents. Visit thefirsttv.com/support or download the First TV app to become a supporter and start watching today.